First they fight or even kill each other in Europe, then their conflicts create problems for the entire world, and then they have the audacity to blame India for it. It even seems that for many in Europe and America, India is the cause or contributor to the whole world's problems. But is it right to say that these Westerners should finally come out of their tiny bubble and destroy their supremacist, neo-colonial attitude that they have against those who were formerly colonized or enslaved? Thanks to their fortunate oil discoveries in the land which was stolen or acquired from Native Americans or indigenous communities, on one hand, we have these Western nations which have earned hundreds of billions of dollars of easy money by selling oil. And on the other hand, we have India, a formerly colonized nation which was looted and invaded by European colonial powers. Today, India uses its hard-earned money to buy oil from others because it doesn't have oil self-sufficiency. But it seems that the West wants to decide who India should buy its oil from. Before, they targeted Iran, and now it is Russia. Well, it has been said that India's energy deal with Russia will be deeply disappointing. Some have even claimed that India is funding Putin's war. And then there are those who have indicated that India is on the wrong side of history. So history is being written again, right? But whose history books should India fear? Should India fear how it will be portrayed in America's history books, a nation whose sanitized history has been described as something that is written by white men, inked in the blood of Native Americans, and built on the broken backs of enslaved people from Africa? Or should India fear the deeply sanitized history books of nations like Norway, Sweden and Finland, whose very existence is on land which has been taken over or acquired from the indigenous Sami people? Or should India fear how history will be written by former colonial powers like the UK, France, Belgium or Germany, whose history books, even today, continue to reflect their colonial amnesia? When will we, Europeans, finally understand that this is the new independent India which doesn't want to be bullied or controlled by others anymore? This new India does not seem to be very keen to get glorified in the Western history books, which are anyway deeply sanitized. Instead, this new India wants these Western nations to properly accept their colonial and other crimes, admit to their colonial looting and other wrongdoing, and then probably it will take their history books more seriously. Now on March 31st, 2022, something very interesting took place. At the India-UK Strategic Futures Forum, India's Minister of External Affairs, Dr. S. Jaishankar, in the presence of the UK's Elizabeth Truss, said something regarding Russian oil and gas. Elizabeth Truss, who was indirectly encouraging India to stop buying Russian oil, didn't seem to be quite prepared for that.
Now, I was just reading a report today that in the month of March, Europe has bought, I think, 15% more oil and gas from Russia than it did the month before. If you look at the major buyers of oil and gas from Russia, I think you'd find most of them are in Europe. We ourselves get the bulk of our energy supplies from the Middle East, about 7.5%, 8% of our oil from the US. In the past, maybe less than 1% from Russia.
As far as buying oil from Russia is concerned, India's Minister of External Affairs has already made it clear what he thinks about it, but I would like to do some deep digging to understand the picture better. Take a look at this. That's what India's crude oil imports by source looked like in 2019. Please note that Russia's share is so tiny that it isn't even mentioned separately. Now for the same year, let's take a look at the European Union's data. Crude oil. See this, biggest imports from Russia, a massive 26.9%. Imports of solid fuel. Again, biggest imports from Russia, 46.7%. Now, import of natural gas. Again, it's Russia, a massive 41.1%. What I want to highlight here is that in our European Union, these patterns of mega purchases of Russian oil and gas have continued for a very long time, which means that for all these years, when Russia was modernizing its army and preparing itself for the conflict, it was this massive European Union money that was helping or benefiting Russia to achieve its targets. Remember, Russia didn't build its military power in 1 year. It built and modernized its army gradually over many years, benefiting immensely from European Union money. You have been Russia's major oil and gas buyers. You are one of Russia's largest trade partners. So why should we blame India? India, whose trade with Russia in comparison is so tiny. Why blame that country for funding the so-called Putin's war? Yes, European Union, it is your hundreds of billions of dollars that you have injected into Russia for many years, the impact of which we are seeing today. And from that perspective, who has funded or contributed to Putin's war the most? And by the way, don't forget to answer, who was buying more gas and oil from Russia while it was annexing Crimea? The European Union or India? So who was funding the annexation of Crimea? Nobody should and nobody can force India to choose sides. India is a sovereign nation and it has the right to stay neutral if it wants to. And don't forget to notice its official stand on this conflict. Read this very carefully. India seeks peace and normalcy in Ukraine. India has also expressed support for the unity and territorial integrity of all countries. And read this one very carefully. It clearly shows that India is against this ongoing violence in Ukraine. How can anyone criticize India for that? And don't forget that if India abstained on a resolution by Ukraine and its allies, then it has also abstained on a resolution that was brought by Russia. If the West is planning to reduce its dependency on Russian gas and oil, then India is also planning to reduce its dependency on Russian weapons. Why are you ignoring that? Now see what these reports are telling you. Inflation in Spain hit a 37-year high. Inflation in Germany hits 30-year high. Inflation in the UK hits 30-year high. In these so-called advanced Western countries, millions are suffering from hunger and poverty, including many children. How is this inflation going to impact them? Of course, India has the right to take the essential measures to check its inflation, which also means buying Russian oil at discounted prices, because India wants to protect and serve those Indians who are economically disadvantaged and they don't deserve to suffer due to the crimes of others, especially when their country is not even directly involved in this conflict. And not to forget, nations like Sri Lanka, Afghanistan and many others also depend on India's financial aid and help. If the USA is a true well-wisher of India and its economically disadvantaged people, it can offer crude oil to India at a better price than Russia. But before countries like the USA and Canada do more drilling to extract more oil to capitalize on this global oil deficit, at least we, the global community, should not ignore the plight and pain of their indigenous communities who continue to pay the price for these Western nations' greed for easy oil money. See you again.